days actually until I am 40. Just doing another one right after the previous one because I realize it's hard for me to get back into this mindset. Well, at least just come back to do this again later in the evening if I just don't get it out. And I'd like to continue keep consistent with this. Um, we start off a little random with our cat. When our cat's at home, she makes she I don't know what it is. She just runs around and there's always like little bits and pieces everywhere. Like just you have to vacuum the house every day or 2 days. Even though we don't sometimes just let her lie for the week. And when she's not, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly clean. You don't have to do anything for a whole week. Anyway, we love her, but she's messy. I can't imagine people having like two or three. Like, how do you do that? But I guess we might end up doing that, and I'll let you know. In other news, I found out, I don't know if it's real, but on Instagram, it said that you can pay in Mexico. You can pay $10 to cops to fake chase you. I don't know how true that is, but that's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. Is it dangerous? I don't know. Probably would be here in Canada, but um, I like that idea. Now to get to the topic of failure, been distracting and avoiding from it. As we do, I think, as human beings, we like to distract, avoid, and not deal with it. And I think that's half the problem. Just like acknowledging that there's a problem or acknowledging that you got to do this, recognizing it, just saying it like it is half the battle. Like it always seems bigger until you just take a look at it and acknowledge it. And then when you do, it's that really not as big. And I actually put this topic into ChatGPT. I was like, here, let's see what you can pull out. And it just pulled out the most cliche like advice of like, oh, art failing is an art, blah 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 blah. Anyway, that's another way to I think identify AI these days. It's just like if you can take the most cliche things about a topic, and if that's what you're reading, it's probably AI. Now take that with a grain of salt, but I guess there are people who do enjoy that cliche. So um, anyway, let's not bash on that. So recognizing it for what it is, because I think a lot of people say, "Oh, fail fast, fail quick," like, or don't don't be scared of failure. You need to embrace failure. But it's like there's no like, and even me like sharing this is not like a recipe to how to deal with it. Like I think every failure or situation is way too unique, especially in this case. But I do still think some things like acknowledging it in the first place, and then um, the people who are affected by it, having that conversation with them. I think we're afraid to have that, but having that conversation, it's like, hey, I think this is the scenario. And then like the most immediate people affected by it, right? And then there's always like a wider group of people who are concerned but not necessarily immediately affected by it. And for them, you kind of want to frame it, frame it in the sense that, hey, this happened. Um, we're investigating or looking into it. Um, and this is kind of a plan that we're putting in place. And I've talked to the people who are most impacted by it immediately. And I feel like you can see this kind of pattern in really good crisis management situations, like whether it's Bybit's like hack recently, and then I don't remember the name, but there was like a musician or artist that the the fireworks and stuff in the concert caused a fire in the concert, and people died, and then he like went and dealt with that. Um, People were upset, and then they thought he disappeared, but like he took the time to actually go and visit the families of the ones affected and everything, and it turned out to be really a very positive experience for everybody involved. And I think that's the key. Like there's a lot of people like, oh, fail fast, and then they fail and then they just like leave the mess there, which is like It's crazy, like, and I was like speaking about this with like some other founder friends, and they're like, it's crazy that it's like it's not the norm to actually like spend time, fix it, and clean up the mess. Um, the norm actually is to just, oh, drop it, cut it, tell everyone it's done, and then whatever mess ensues from that is, just deal with it. It's not worth pursuing further, you know. Now, then there's the other side of it, like the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world that will continue pushing this off all the way to like covering it up, fraud, blah blah blah, and then they'll have to go through the whole legal process. And they're like big enough, like they're big enough that like people want their skin for it. Um, well, it's not. I don't think people want their skin because they're big enough. People want their skin for all the hiding and lying that they're doing, you know. And because they're big enough, there's enough resources at stake that it's worth the legal process to go through, right? Even like, and I'm going from like the whole range of what I've kind of experienced or seen, but even with like lessees, like when they're driving our cars on the road, and they will bring up a million and one excuses sometimes of like, oh, the car has this issue, the dealership didn't tell me about that issue. It's like, look, at the core of it, you didn't notice any of these issues for the past 6 months, and you're just bringing them up now because you can't pay, and you're trying to pin it on something. Like, dude, just tell me you can't pay, okay? After that, we'll deal with the aftermath. Like, um, and I get it. Like, people are scared. I think at the core of it all, failing artfully or with grace takes courage, and fear. There's always fear with it. Like, there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot more unknown even than like when you're trying to enter a new space. Like, oh, here's a bold adventure, right? And then when your bold adventure fails, that's scarier to deal with. Um, and it's like, if you're straight from the outset, though, I think most of your core supporters who are going to fund your outrageous mission or support you along the way, they will know that there are risks. And I think there's even like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's the people immediately surrounding that are like funded your mission, and then there are those who are further out, like your customers. They haven't funded your mission, but you know, they've used your service very early on. And if you buy like a car that's a brand new model, or like just a prototype, or an early version of like a startup's product, um, you know it's going to be buggy. And hey, a lot of times it's unsaid, but I think it's just better to say it sometimes. You aim for like that. You aim for getting it as good as it can be to solve the problem that you need, and deal with the bugs alongside it and help fix and improve it. So that's an overall general picture about how I think failing should be done, and in fact should be taught to be done and advised on. So thanks for listening.